What's up, folks? I'm live here. My co-host is joining me right here. There he is. Aura. Buddy,
Was
perfect
I?
timing.
Of
Perfect
course.
timing, man.
I am the best co-host. No, I'm just kidding. What's up, everybody? How are you?
You're the best co-host. You're the best. Okay, what anybody says. What's going on, folks? All right, so a couple things to discuss today, of course. We'll wait for more people to get in here before we go ahead and get into it.
Hell yeah.
But things are moving fast as usual, it seems.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because I know eventually there's going to be a dead point where I think
For sure,
barbecue
for sure.
counselor was saying that, but I'm still
Well, that is-
surprised with. Yeah, go ahead.
Good. My bad.
Oh no, I'm just saying I'm just surprised like how rapid this is going. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's already hit federal court.
Yeah.
Like I thought they'd at least go back and forth in Utah for a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we have run into periods of time where it's been where there's been like these long lapses in between updates with other cases that we've looked at, like maybe like a month at some points with some of them. I don't think it'll be like that with this one. For some reason, I get the feeling that this one it'll be a little bit more up to date as it progresses consistently, I think. And because of the fact that Ben has like so many different court cases, if there's a lapse in one, there's going to be some kind of movement in one of the other ones. So
Yeah, I mean it's crazy too because I think Bam's sweating a little bit because there's so much eyes on this now, like more than what they're used to.
Yeah, I think so too. But what's crazy to me though is remember the video I did earlier today about that article, and it's just like they're still sticking to their guns, they're still sticking to their story, which is wild to me that they're well. But then again, it is and it isn't. It's not because you kind of expect it from them at this point, and it's one of those things that, like you said on the stream we had with BBQ this past weekend, they're kind of in too deep at this point. So it's kind of like they have to stick to their story. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they have to stick to their story because either way, it's just like if they change now, it'll just look even worse. But I mean,
they've already spoken too much. They've already talked too much. Yeah,
exactly. They've already talked too much at this point, but now they've like committed to that story though. It's just like, oh, well, hey, you know what? It's Crystal Gorman's fault. We never approved the consignment. All the usual talking points that they use, right? Whenever they do these interviews.
Yeah.
It's like they have that checklist. Make sure you say this. Make sure you say this. Make sure you say this. Oh, and mention this. Right?
It's just perplexing because I'm like, they have to know. They have to know about that ring camera footage, but it's just like they just can't acknowledge it.
Well, they do because remember. Again, they had seen in the lawsuit filing. Remember, we saw that again. For those of you that didn't catch that first time that we went over the lawsuit filings, that's a couple streams back.
Yeah.
But more than a couple streams back at this point. But when we went over the initial lawsuit filing, we were just like, maybe they prepared this before they actually saw Reckless Ben's video, and then we realized, oh no, they didn't.
Yeah, because but like, I don't think they have an appropriate like counter to that ring camera because they keep saying it's Crystal's fault, but I'm like, but you assumed responsibility, like, so you see what I'm saying? You picking up what I'm putting down?
Yeah. Oh, what's up, BBQ in chat? BBQ, if you want a link to join the stream, let me know, man. We'll shoot you one over.
Come through, counselor. You're always welcome, unless you're busy.
Yeah. Unless you're busy, then we understand. It's all good. But if you want a link to the stream, you're always welcome on any of the streams we do anytime. Just let me know. I'll shoot you one over through DM. But when we had BBQ on, that actually remember what he told us too in regards to that, what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
So.
No, I remember. It just perplexes me as a person who's taking this all the way. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know what I would do if I'm like, fuck, they have that ring camera footage. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know what I would do.
Well, remember what BBQ said on the thing. The biggest problem with what they put was it's not just that what they said on the ring camera footage, but also in the termination letter, which is something I didn't realize until he pointed it out. In the termination letter that they basically are going to assume, they're assuming ownership of the store, so they're assuming the responsibility of the store.
Mm-hmm.
So And that's one thing that we had argued even beforehand when we first started looking over all this stuff, that if Crystal was at fault at any point in time, then of course, yeah, they kind of shot themselves in the foot by taking that responsibility out of her hands.
Wepa.
Yep. So
sorry, John.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, they're fools. They're fools, I say. But BBQ, since you're here, yeah, we're actually going to go over your video, man. Because BBQ, for those of you that don't know, that's BBQ Counselor in chat at BBQ_Counselor. Be sure to sub to him. He's the one that's been breaking a lot of news on here, and so has Pun King on X.
Yeah,
he's been doing a lot of good work as well. So be sure to check him out as well on X. They're both on X. But here, let me go ahead and bring up his video, which it's linked in the description below for those of you that want to see it in its entirety, or I'll go ahead and link it again here in the chat shortly. But yeah, make sure you're sub to him. He's doing great work over there. But this is this video we'll discuss.
Mercedes-Benz, now federal civil suit, has been assigned a new judge, Chief Magistrate Judge Cecilia Romero of the District of Utah. What does it mean to have a
So I did a little bit of research on this judge, just to see if she's done any high-profile cases. She's a magistrate judge, from my understanding, and as far as I know, I think this will be her first really kind of high-profile case, but she does have experience. Just so you all know, she has experience. It seems like I believe from what I read here, she's mostly dealt in kind of from what it says here, she practiced as a partner at Holland. So prior to her becoming a magistrate judge, it looks like she was doing a lot of employment and commercial litigation in both state and federal court. And it says here her work involved defending mid to large size companies in matters such as harassment and discrimination claims, wage and hour violations, non-compete agreements, breach of fiduciary duties, breach of contract, some commercial disputes. So, and it says she received, and this is all, according to Grok too. I put it through Grok. So it says she received for her employment litigation work, but available records do not highlight any cases that gain significant national attention or set major precedents. So this is going to be probably the first real big case in terms of, high profile that she's worked on. That's not just a local or just within the state story. This is obviously now a global story. So she's working. This seems to be, at least from what we see on paper, this is going to be her first really high profile case. But it appears though she does have significant experience, more so than, from what it looks like here, than Judge Tony Graff, who was the original judge on the case that I had seen. So it looks like this will be her first big, like I said, just big popular case. But that, just because it's her first big high profile case, doesn't mean that she does not have the experience to judge in the matter. What's interesting, like I said, is I guess the stuff that she's gone over, because I'm sure some of that will apply right to this case. But it'll be interesting to see. And my understanding also, that I've heard from what people have said online that have gone over some of the filings, she might only be a temporary judge in this matter, and it might still be reassigned to another judge. But we'll have to wait and see how that. Yep, that's what I've heard as well, Trav. Yep. So let's continue to go over this here real quick.
Magistrate judge assigned, and will this stay the judge for the entire case? Maybe, maybe not. I'll explain the process and what a magistrate judge is in this video. As a reminder, I am a civil litigator, a practicing attorney with over 15 years of experience litigating in federal courts all around the country. I have significant experience dealing with magistrate judges, and I'm very familiar with the process that's happening today. First, let me give some background about Chief Magistrate Judge Cecilia Romero. Judge Romero was appointed to the bench as a magistrate judge effective June 2019. Prior to that, she served as a law partner at the Salt Lake City office of Holland and Hart. There, she specialized in employment practice, representing companies on employer-side litigation and counseling matters. Judge Romero attended the University of Utah School of Law, where she graduated in 2002. She was a comment editor for that university's law review. Next, let's talk about what a magistrate is. Well, you can think of a magistrate judge as kind of a deputy judge. They are not appointed by the president. They are hired by the court system. Magistrate judges typically handle the smaller parts of pretrial litigation. For example, they conduct settlement conferences and they handle discovery disputes. They can also be referred for other particular issues on pretrial matters. In some instances, with both sides' consent, a magistrate can also serve as the sitting assigned judge throughout the entire case. However, that requires all sides of the litigation to consent to the authority of the magistrate judge. And the reason for that is that by default, parties in federal litigation have the right to have their dispute heard by a full Article 3 district court judge. That means a judge appointed by the president. However, as a workload balancing issue, because federal courts can get very busy, they often offer litigants the opportunity to have the case heard by a magistrate. The advantages to litigants in doing so is that the case may be able to proceed faster, and the parties may have more flexibility in setting a schedule and a trial date that works for them, rather than being subjected to the more busy calendar and scheduling issues of a full Article 3 judge.
So that's interesting. That makes me wonder if both sides will agree to just kind of speed it along. But then again, I don't know, right? I would think that if you're bricks and minifigs, depending on which way you're looking at it, because it seems like they're not consistent with anything. You would want things to be done as quick as possible, but then you'd also want to try to see, I guess, if you could outspend them in court and just prolong it, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it's just a matter of what it is they really want to do.
Well, like there's their filings in the previous court that you would probably have to consider, you know what I mean? Because it looked like they were trying to make things go fast paced there. Like, they were like, forget the 30th hearing. They were like, fuck the TRO. You know what I mean? So that was very interesting plays,
Yeah.
I wonder what they were trying to do. Like, I wonder if they're just trying to get it over with.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Because it's going to cost everybody. The longer it goes on, it's going to cost everybody. And obviously, even though they made the threats that they could basically outspend people in court, like I said, every day that this trial goes on, they lose money in the sense of like their brand reputation, right? They're losing money by virtue of the bad PR. So
yeah, I mean, through that litigation, I don't know how much they're paying their lawyers. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. And supposedly their lawyers is they're big over there. Apparently, they're big firms. They're obviously not cheap.
Big or they're pricey. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Morgan and Morgan's expensive.
Morgan and Morgan, right? Morgan.
Yeah.
Florida people.
Yeah.
Parties do not consent to a magistrate judge's adjudication of a case. And the reason for that is what I said before. Generally, magistrate judges are experienced in handling the smaller interim pretrial issues of a case, like discovery disputes and settlement conferences. They do not typically have as much experience handling what I'd call the bigger questions, the bigger issues that come up pretrial, like whether the...
I would love to see discovery on this case, but I don't think it's going to get that far. I don't think it's going to get that far. And I think that would be probably really devastating to them.
Yeah, because this one's kind of hard to predict. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
By now, just to save face, I thought they would have settled by now, but it's too. Yeah. I guess it. I guess we'll see. Fuck it. Because I don't know. You know, there was always that thought I had that I'm like, they're just going to be like, fuck it, we're going all in. You know, like, we're just going in. Yeah.
Our reputation's dead anyways. Let's just screw them over.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, yeah, desperation, right? So
I mean, yeah, possibly. I mean, I don't even know if they're just trying to get Ben to pay their legal fees at this point. I think that's probably another thing they were thinking. I have no idea.
let's call it even. Just pay for our legal fees. It's like,
Yeah, right. Go fuck yourself.
well, Ben
This is all
would
because
rather- screw that, dude. No,
Yeah.
nah, screw that, dude.
You, the one that wanted to get sued in the first place.
You
Yeah,
guys
I
said
can see.
for me to sue you, so I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you pay up.
Yeah. I can see it.
He should even go to trial because of a summary judgment motion or some other motion that may eliminate the case pre-trial. Magistrate judges also have less trial experience than a full Article 3 district judge. And finally, magistrate judges typically get hired straight out of private practice, which means that's a little different from a full Article 3 judge, which has usually or typically served as a judge in state court before being appointed to the federal bench. So what is going on here, and why has this case been assigned to a magistrate judge instead of a full judge? Well, there's nothing suspicious or abnormal about this. This is the standard process that the District of Utah follows in every civil case. They, on a first instance, assign the case to a magistrate judge. The parties then have 21 days to let the court know if they will consent to the magistrate being the full judge through trial. If the parties do not consent within that 21-day period, then the case will be assigned to a full judge, and the magistrate judge will stay on to handle those pretrial issues I talked about before, things like settlement conferences and discovery disputes and possibly other issues. However, during that first 21-day period, the magistrate judge is the judge in the case and has the authority to hear any issues that are raised. So the big question I think you're all asking, what about the TRO? Well, as I've said before, the TRO is technically still in place, even though all parties have agreed the gag order will come out. And as I put in my videos over the weekend, it probably did expire on its own terms, but you still need the judge to confirm that. So here, Magistrate Judge Romero, for the next 21 days, has the authority to rule on any issues the parties raise. So theoretically, if the parties filed something this week asking the court to confirm that the TRO is no longer in force, or at least asking the court to confirm the terms of the agreed upon preliminary injunction, the one that has no gag order in it, Judge Romero does have the authority to decide that issue here in the next 21 days.
Hell yeah.
So the next question you may be,
That's good news, right?
Hell yeah.
And I'm thinking because it's a new judge, and because they both were just like, yeah, let's just.
I feel like the judge is going to read this shit and be like, what the fuck? Just like, I'm like, are you serious right now? Where are these Legos at? like,
That'd be fantastic.
I just think it'd be funny. Yeah.
It's like, guys, what are you doing? All right.
Where's
screw this
the inventory? We didn't know we had it, Judge. What do you mean? It says corporate. Get out of my fucking courtroom. Could you imagine? It's just like hits the gavel. Get out of my courtroom.
Bailiff.
Yeah, get this asshole out of here. Oh man, God help anyone if I was ever in charge. God help everybody.
That would be fantastic if they did something like that.
asking, is Reckless Ben and the defendants likely to consent to the magistrate judge as the main judge in the case? Probably not. Parties typically do not consent to the magistrates being the primary judges for the reasons that I stated before. The Article 3 judges typically have more experience. They typically have more expertise handling the big questions in a civil litigation, and they typically have more trial experience than the magistrate. And so for those reasons alone, I think it's not very likely that the defendants will consent to the magistrate. One other issue that parties tend to consider is the judge's background. Here, this judge has a significant amount of experience in civil litigation. She was a law partner at a large firm. She has a lot of experience in employment litigation. However, she did tend to specialize in representing employer side. It's possible the defendants may not want a magistrate who served as an attorney for corporations and large employers in the first parts of her career. However, that's only one thing that the defendants will be looking at. They will be also studying Judge Romero's prior rulings. They will look at her history. They will speak to attorneys that know and have worked with her and decide for themselves if she's the right fit for this case. And what happens if the
So basically, yeah, that's a good point, right? They'll look at the cases and see if she's sided more with companies before or with actually, you know, the little guys, right? The employees.
Well, this is unprecedented too. You know what I mean? Like, so I think people have described this situation as people have been united like they've never seen before. I kind of agree to a certain point because I don't know. I guess there was a very select few of pushback on Ben, but at the same time, I think they're not really focusing, or I don't know what's going on. I can't read what's in their head, but I think they need to focus on these crazy corporations and their crazy shit that they've been doing and that it's uncovered that they have done. And the same thing with this police department. Oh, and also Casey, I believe it's Casey. If that's not how you say it, I apologize in chat. I think has a question.
Why or in what instances would the parties typically want to consent to a magistrate? I guess just from what BBQ said earlier, I guess just to kind of speed things along, right? To not prolong it anymore would be one instance. But I guess, you know, the good point that he's bringing up though is like is seeing how she has ruled in previous cases is definitely something you want to know for if this is if this is a judge you want to keep or not, right? If or you know, or go ahead and say like, hey, look, no, we don't want this magistrate judge looking at this. We want an actual, you know, like you said, third district judge to look at it. That has more experience, right?
Yeah.
So
I was going to say something real quick too. If this judge ever does something y'all don't like, and I'm not saying y'all specifically in chat, but just generally, if you hear this, leave the judge alone. Do not bother that judge. Like,
yeah, don't bother the judge.
It happens every time. Like, I swear. So I thought we beat it to the punch. Like,
if,
for whatever reason, this judge does something that you don't like, or it seems unfair, or it might be even be bullshit, do not bother that judge. Leave them alone.
Yeah. Well, it's just like the same thing, right? With whatchamacallit, Tony Graff, right? I mean, the guy is guy was just trying to do his job, even if it didn't seem like, you know, if it seemed like he might be more biased or whatever. We'll never get to know now because obviously it's out of his hands now. But yeah, you know, but, getting a hold of him or harassing him is not gonna help matters either. We've seen instances in the past where that really has no effect on anything.
Stuff. Yeah, it hurt more than helped, to be honest.
Yeah.
So just throwing it out there. I have a feeling that might need to be said at some point. So might as well get ahead of it.
Yeah, just in case. Yeah, don't bother the judge. Don't track her down. don't hit her up. Yeah, just see how things play out.
Yeah, because they'll use it. They did it before. We've seen it. They're like, look, see, they do cause harassment. Like no, exactly. It's not Ben's fault.
Exactly.
So, anyways,
not to consent to her. Could they suffer any kind of blowback or ramifications from that? No. It's very common that parties do not consent to a magistrate. And so I would not expect there to be any negative effects from not consenting to this. No judge or court is going to take it personally if the parties do not consent to the magistrate being the full judge, because that's the standard practice in most cases. So that's the news for the morning. I hope you found this video educational or entertaining and informative. And if so, please drop a like.
Yep, his videos are always educational and informative. Appreciate BBQ Counselor. Fantastic.
Another one
channel.
For the counselor. Hell yeah.
Another one for the counselor. He's doing great work over there. I'll go ahead and link his video here in the chat for those of you that want to check it out uninterrupted by our commentary there. There's the link, but also, you know, drop him a sub and follow him on X if you're on X, because he's always breaking news on there as well.
He's one of the good sources, you know.
He is. He's one of the best sources. Him and Punk King and
Diet, I think, is another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good sources, but just to add to that here, actually, you can see Punk King was talking about it earlier. See, he's talking about this judge being assigned, and this too, which I think is interesting. So I guess one of Brian's lawyers, he says, ran into a bit of a hiccup, hit the same hurdle. The official form of the magistrate being assigned and consent was also posted. So we'll read this real quick. So I guess so it says here, notice from clerk's office regarding attorney status. Attorney John C. Clark has appeared under on behalf of defendant Brian Mansell, but is not currently admitted to practice in this court as required. Current admission status is not admitted. Please review the attorney admission instructions of the attorney registration instructions to address the issue. After the court's attorney directory reflects the status of active pro, hack, vice, or federal, the attorney may practice before this court and will need to file an appearance to be added to the case. So electronic filing. This case is assigned to a magistrate judge under, under this code. You are hereby notified the magistrate judge for the District of Utah may conduct any or all proceedings in this case, including a jury bench trial and entry of final judgment exercise of this jurisdiction of the magistrate judge is permitted only if all parties voluntarily sign and return the form to consent. Return the consent form to the clerk's office within 21 days. So just what BBQ said, right? So just confirming what he said, and it's notice of who it's all emailing. Ben, Brian, Victor. All people involved. So, let me see what else it says here. So yeah. Let me see. Okay, there was another thing that I wanted to go over. I guess I didn't save that one, but yeah, it looks like Brian. So Brian's team has got to get in on that as well. It looks like.
So it's like almost a joint. John, everyone should join together, do a giant joint suit.
Well, they're already named in the suit together, but remember they have different lawyers representing them. So
I mean, like everybody, John.
I think everybody will at some point.
You and me too. Let's do them fucking too, bro. Fuck these guys.
Sue these guys. Yeah.
Josh showed me his feet with no consent.
Yeah,
I hate that guy.
Feet unsolicited. So
unsolicited.
Disgusting. But I wanted to actually, I had seen this video and I thought I wanted to see what this was about because I thought this was interesting. As you guys could read here, it says interview a civil rights attorney talking in the American Fork Lego raid. So this is from Clearly Established, another great channel that you guys should check out if you get a chance, and sub to him. He's doing great work over there as well. But he's the one that went over if you guys recall, he went over the training records for American Fork Police, right? Including there was 9 of them that were part of the Reckless Ben case that had no kind of civil rights training, which makes all the sense in the world considering the circumstances, right? Considering what we've seen happen with the American Fork Police Department. So I thought it'd be interesting to look this over here and seeing if, I don't know if this is an attorney that's actually involved in the case or they're just talking about, how they would handle, because the Clearly Established is a civil rights attorney from my understanding. So I wanted to see if this was them just talking about it generally, how they would handle it if they were going at American Fork Police Department, or if it's a thing if one of them actually is involved, which I don't believe either one of them is involved, but I thought it would be an interesting piece of content to look over here tonight. And
let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Attorney Solomon Radner, how have you been, man?
Been doing great. Thanks for asking, Brandon. It's really great to see you. I miss doing cases with you. I know we had a few that we were doing, and who knows, maybe there's a few more that we'll be doing together in short order.
Yeah, I definitely look forward to it. For our audience, just in case they don't know, when I first started out as a lawyer, I started handling matters that were tailored towards service members, military spouses, etc., kind of bordering on constitutional law. But I did not actually get started in the civil rights arena until you and I teamed up on the Leon Valley case back in 2018. And so I've now diverted my whole practice to essentially focusing on civil rights because of the knowledge and mentorship that you provided me, about 8 years ago. So it's crazy how that all works out.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Brandon, the fact that you're a military veteran obviously is something that I truly enjoy and appreciate and respect. Something that that your audience may not know is that any opportunity that I get to work with our veterans, I take, assuming I can within reason. I often take military veterans cases and law enforcement cases for free to represent them because I sincerely appreciate and respect what they do. Now, obviously, the bad apples in law enforcement have to be held accountable. It's a tough way to make a living, as you well know. But civil rights litigation has never been more important, and it's great to have more partners such as yourself doing this kind of work. And thank you for at least attributing part of the fact that you do it to the fact that we worked together 7 or 8 years ago. But you're a great attorney. It's great working with you, and I really do look forward to working with you again in the future.
No, likewise. And that's actually an important thing you kind of bring up, because I know a lot of people think, attorneys make all this money and it's easy going, but you probably understand better than everyone. When you sue the government, that's probably the hardest type of case to take. And I think when people actually need to find a lawyer to be able to sue government or government officials, I think they find themselves in a position of not finding a lawyer who's actually capable or willing to take the case because of the challenges presented with things like qualified immunity. Would you agree with that?
1,000%. And it's so much more.
That makes sense, especially when you consider how much government will drag its feet when it comes to stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
That makes total sense.
Than qualified immunity. Anytime you're dealing with trying to hold the government accountable, one thing the government's very, very good at doing is insulating itself and protecting itself from being sued. I got to tell you, of all the things the government does and is capable of doing and is incapable of doing, obviously we see nowadays the government seems incapable of doing just about anything. But the one thing they're very, very good at is protecting their own pockets from we the people. Anytime we sue them, we got to deal with quality.
Yep, that is true. Can't disagree there.
I feel that way.
Yeah, I think so too.
Qualified immunity. We got to deal with absolute prosecutorial immunity. We got to deal with sovereign immunity. There's all kinds of immunities that we have to deal with, that we have to know about and be careful about. And it's 1983 is full of landmines. It takes a long time. It's very expensive. And sadly, it's very unpredictable. I mean, you and I have both seen civil rights cases where a law enforcement officer will do something egregiously terrible and violative of somebody's constitutional rights. And still the court will say, well, yeah, he may have violated somebody's rights, but it's not, here's the key word, clearly established, because there's not an identical fact pattern in this court that says that what he did.
It's wild, right? Because we saw that the other day.
We
right?
did
with that last
fucking Trav and chat. He got me. Oh shit.
We do think qualified immunity and all. Yeah. See, it's interesting because that is something we did see firsthand with that last American Ford case we saw. For those of you that weren't here, it was the one where the guy got tackled down, right? When he was already on his knees.
And then he got fucking bum. Oh my god, he got bum fucked, John.
Yeah.
While they were tasing him.
Yep, they tased him and beating his ass while they were beating his ass and tasing him, and he ended up getting concussed. Which is he ended up settling his lawsuit with the police, but it's crazy because none of them, at least as far as we know, ever suffered any kind of disciplinary action, and one of them even got promoted afterwards, which was Adamson, who's somehow been connected to all these horrible, instances of civil rights violations in one way or another. Yeah, whether he was actually there or was on the phone or there by some kind of extension, you know what I mean? By some degree of separation, which is wild.
I think Adamson has explaining to do.
Yeah, but what's crazy is clearly established, gentleman on the right here, in his video, that was the first person that he pointed out that had no kind of civil rights training. because he was he's probably the longest tenured officer there in the situation, and he had no kind of civil rights training that he could find, which is wild.
For getting a
is wrong.
promotion as
Now,
well.
everybody else,
Yep.
such as we the people, we have to use our common sense. If we do something wrong and we go to court and say, hey, this is not clearly established, why should we go to prison? The court says, well, tough luck. Just because it's not clearly established doesn't mean you don't go to prison. But cops get to escape civil liability. Now, what's crazy about qualified immunity, and forgive me for kind of going off on this, but this is
No,
something
go
I
ahead.
care deeply about, and it frankly offends me, and I think it will offend everybody if they only know about it. The intellectual dishonesty that the courts require to continue enforcing qualified immunity the way they do can be demonstrated as follows. If a cop does something wrong, let's say he shoots somebody in the face, and he gets sued for that, and he also gets criminally prosecuted for that, he only gets to raise qualified immunity as a defense in the lawsuit to protect the government's pockets. To protect himself from prison, he cannot raise qualified immunity,
That's
which of
insane.
course makes absolutely no sense. But hey, that's our government for you.
No, and that's a good point. And my biggest concern
Protect itself first. Yep.
that
Yep.
I've talked about previously on this channel, and you obviously recognize, and hopefully a lot of our audience recognizes, qualified immunity is a judge-made doctrine. The court system just kind of made it up. Constitution doesn't have it. Congress didn't authorize it. So the courts almost kind of created this self-preservation system to put these officers in the exact predicament that you're talking about. Not only that, when you talk about all these immunities, it's important to realize that a lot of times as a plaintiff, you have to address or overcome these immunities right out the gate before you even get discovery. So it's not like it's a matter you have to deal with at the end of the case. You have to deal with it the moment they enter a case, and then deal with it throughout. So
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I don't think that it was ever intended to be a part of the statute by virtue of the fact that it's not part of the statute. 42 USC 1983 does not say anywhere in it qualified immunity. It's completely court created. There were two courts in particular that created the clearly established prong. There was the Harlow case sometime in the 80s, and then there was the Anderson case a few years after that. And those were the two cases really that created the idea of clearly established law, which is an affront to our civil liberties and our civil rights. But
Yeah.
completely court created, and that's why anytime the legislatures talk about it, it's very tricky. Because how do you legislate something that's not in the legislation in the first place? They baked language into the legislation, and now it's on the legislator to say, no, that's not what we meant. You guys got it completely wrong. We didn't say qualified immunity because we never intended qualified immunity. You guys made that up. So it's at this point, I think we're kind of stuck with it. The courts are expanding it more and more, clearly established at a sufficiently specific level, which is what the courts love to say, is getting worse and worse. And I mean, the facts that have to be in place in order to be able to hold our law enforcement officers accountable, even if they blatantly and intentionally and recklessly and maliciously violate our rights, is frankly ridiculous.
See, and that's the thing. Like in the case of American Fork Police Department, I think you could make the argument for all of the above, right?
Yeah.
There has to
I'll
be a
completely
degree of
establish them.
maliciousness that they used, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
It was also them being reckless. It was them being careless. Just them straight up not knowing the law, ignorance as well.
Well, like
So it's just like all of the above. Everything he mentioned
You know,
there is
like
like they
maliciousness.
hit every one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I think so too.
when-
Yeah, maliciousness too.
Because they conspired.
sure.
They
For sure.
they
I mean-
clearly conspired with each other on what they can do
Absolutely.
to make something happen. Like,
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, no, exactly. Imagine, I mean, that's crazy, right? When you think about it, that they're sitting there pitching to each other. Hey, well, maybe we could charge him with this. Maybe we could charge him with this.
well,
Or
it's
maybe we
Adamson.
could charge him with that.
Everything
Yeah,
obstruction.
Addison. Yep, obstruction.
Obstruction.
Yeah. Hey, cite the Thorpes for not the Thorpes. Cite those people for obstruction for not opening the door, even though they
Opening the
had
door. Yeah.
had no obligation to do so. Zero obligation to open the door for them. Well, you know what? Just cite them with obstruction.
Yeah,
Like, what is that?
that's insane. Because like, what is it? The only reason they were there is because that guy got hung up on, and he called backup and showed up at their house in the middle of the night at like 10:30 or some shit.
Yeah, one of the most retarded things I've ever seen. On a body cam. It's just like,
And then they cited him with obstruction. It's like that guy, they kicked his ass and then cited him, or they charged him with assault on a peace officer.
yes. Yeah, the last guy that we watched, if you guys remember the last video that we watched of the American pork, might as well call it pork, right?
Yeah.
The American Fork Police Department taking down a dude. It was basically, and violating his civil rights was, the guy that they assaulted. They literally whipped his ass, and then they charged him with assault, which was crazy.
It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, they charged him with assault on a peace officer. It's like, what? Like how? It's just like, you guys beat the living shit out of him.
You gave him a concussion.
You concussed him. You beat the shit out of him, and then you have the audacity to like charge him. Really? And it's just like, and it's all on body cam, which is even crazier, because you see that all he's trying to do is like defend. Like he was trying to defend himself, but he wasn't like fighting back, defending himself. He was turtling up, like he was trying to protect his face.
Well, it's like it's like an instinct, like he just got tackled from behind after like his guard is down pretty much. Like I said, he surrendered. He's in a fucking position of surrender or whatever, So like this dude,
he's basically in a.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No. You.
All right, John. But no, yeah, pretty much like that's what I'm saying. I'm like, he basically reacted after like, because when this guy tackled him, he threw all his weight on top of this guy and his face landed into the concrete first. You know what I mean? So of course, you know what I mean? You just got your like lights knocked out, for fuck's sake. You're going to react probably that way. And I don't even think this guy was swinging after he just got tackled. I think he just like put his arms over his head. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, like anybody who's getting jumped, right? They would turtle up. They would go into the fetal position and just try to cover up as best they can.
Yeah.
At that point. And that's what he was doing. You could see it in the video when they're like turning him around and stuff. He's just turtled up because he's not trying to get hit.
Yeah.
He's not trying to get hit. So
yeah.
Yeah, while they're jumping him, while they're literally jumping him.
And tasing him.
Yes, and while tasing him, which is crazy. And the thing is, and you also got to take into account, like I said, after that initial bum rush where they tackled him down and he went face first into the pavement, he was probably concussed at that point.
Yeah.
So if you get concussed, you're obviously going to be a little bit, you're going to be dazed. You're going to be more confused, but you're also going to go into self-preservation mode, right? You're like, oh crap. You know what I mean? So, if you have any kind of awareness at that point, right? Because I'm sure initially there was confusion, but then he's like, oh shit, they're beating the shit out of me. I gotta protect myself.
Well,
so he
well, that's why he started screaming, I'm good. You know what I mean? To get them off of him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was wild, man. It was a wild thing to watch.
And that dude got promoted right after that. That's the craziest part.
Adamson. Insanity. Such insanity that Adamson got promoted to lieutenant after that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Yeah,
especially if they keep holding that the conduct is not clearly established to have violated rights, then nothing ever gets clearly established. So it's an easy way for the courts to take, no matter how many times they see the same occurrence.
Oh, and just for the record, remember the Thorpes, their case is still in the courts.
It's still ongoing.
That's still one it's still ongoing. Which again, I'm hoping for the sake of the Thorpes, because that was another egregious example of civil rights violations. I hope that this whole story, this Reckless Ben story versus Bricks and Minifigs, I hope it puts pressure on that case too, with the American Fork Police Department, for them to try to settle it up as much as possible. Because right now, they're the most famous police department, probably for sure here in America.
Yeah,
they're now the most or infamous, I should say, most infamous police department, right? But now globally they are as well.
John,
so much attention they have. Yeah,
we should try to reach out to Clearly Established. I would love to talk to him.
I would love to talk to him too. I'll try to hit him up. I'll try to hit him up because I think it would be a fun conversation as well.
Oh, dude. I mean, because all the AFPD's talk that we can have. Like I think he's like one of the experts, pretty much. No.
Well, he's actually a civil rights attorney. He actually practices, civil rights. So
I think it'd be cool.
That would be his. I think that would be his primary area of expertise, right? On how every single thing that they did, he'd be able to break down specifically what every single thing they did, how they fucked up.
Yeah, no, yeah, for real.
To violating people's rights. So I think, it would be a fun conversation to have and see what, get an idea of what the parties involved, because the people who got cited that never opened the door, remember, I think that the husband in that particular instance, I think he was gathering information to file a lawsuit. Although that's never been said, that's just my assumption based on the fact that he was trying to get records after the fact, that he did a FOIA request and he was trying to get copies of the citations and all that. I think that he was probably, and the fact that it was, there was body cam footage. Obviously, the guy also had his own Ring camera there. I think that he was probably trying to get as much information as he could to probably take to a lawyer to potentially also sue the American Fork Police Department. But as of yet, he hasn't, that we know of. But I think that that's why he was trying to get all that documentation, because I think he was probably planning on suing. But conveniently, that documentation, nowhere to be found. The citations that they came and bothered him and his wife about, right? Knocking on his door, not even knocking, pounding on his door at like 10:30 at night, scaring his kids, right? They don't have a single one of those documents anywhere. Who wasn't able to get any of those. They magically disappeared all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So it's like they went over to his house that night really for nothing. For nothing. Because that family never got those citations either. So they went and harassed that family in the dead of night for nothing.
Because no court's going to go out of the way to say, going forward, this is clearly established. So it's definitely a crazy. Yeah.
It's an unfortunate state of the Constitution, but what are we going to do? It is what it is.
So as a result of this court protection, you get law enforcement officers that obviously are emboldened in the decisions they make. And the cities are going to stand behind them a lot of the times because the system's going to protect the decisions based on qualified immunity. So,
well, especially when you think about it, American Fork is a small city. Its population is only 37,000 people. They're a small police force. So small town cop mentality. We'll be fine. We take care of our own. We do things differently here.
I was gonna say, damn, he beat me to it.
So they also have that in the back of their mind as well. Probably is the fact that they got the qualified immunity and they're protected on a couple different fronts. The fact that they're a small police force too. So
look at Hit Bull in the chat.
What happened? Hit a bull?
Yeah, in the chat.
You should hire a woman there good at winning arguments, even when.
That's a good one.
It's even worse than that because I'm sorry for interrupting you. Every once in a while, you actually hear somebody at the side of the road.
What's up, Laura?
That wasn't me. That was the video.
Oh, my bad. I thought you said, hold on a sec.
No, that was the video.
That they know is wrong. They'll get threatened with a lawsuit at the side of the road, which I always tell my clients not to do. And the cop will respond with, well, I got qualified immunity. You're going to lose. And sadly, very often they're right. Sometimes they're wrong. And those are the kinds of clips you love playing to the jury, obviously. You can kind of argue to them that
you
this
got to
guy
get
was
there
intentionally violating somebody's rights, thinking that the court would protect him. And, every once in a while we're able to get through it, but it's a tough hill.
See, and that's the thing. That's why I say this will never go to trial, right? If they sue the American Fork Police Department, they will never. I don't think it will ever go to trial. I'd be really surprised if it did. I think they will settle it immediately because remember that unredacted body cam footage that was leaked looks so bad, and they're the ones that leaked it. Those idiots are the ones that leaked it, but it looks so bad for them. Imagine playing that stuff in front of a jury. They look so foolish, especially when they're sitting there conspiring to bring up charges against Ben and his friends. The fact that they go to the house and raid it for having a search warrant, and and end up arresting people. It's everything looks bad. It just
Well, how's
looks
it going
bad.
to look
The
where
one
that cop?
that-
Go ahead. Are you about to bring
Go-
it
go
up?
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you
Oh,
bring it up. I think I know.
All
what
right,
you're gonna
fine.
bring up.
I think is it the cop that like offered to serve Josh? Is that it?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. That
Yep,
I
yep.
was about. Yeah, we're on the same page, John. Look at that shit. Hell yeah, we're in tune tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that fucking guy.
the cop-
He offered to serve him,
Mhm.
finds out it's real, and then he's like, "Oh, you don't want these papers." Like, fucking, what an asshole.
Yeah. Well, that's before. No, you know what the crazy thing is? That's before he found out that they were real.
Oh yeah, because Josh was telling him
Right?
they was fake or some shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
he finds out that they're real, but he still doesn't serve them after the fact. After he offered to serve them,
Yeah.
he offered to serve them, and he still
How's that
didn't.
shit gonna look? Yeah. How's that shit gonna look?
Yeah,
I'm just
that's
like-
gonna look really, really bad. Yeah. And the fact that the reason why he's not serving those papers, right, is because he doesn't want to be put in a position where he looks like the bad guy to who? To fucking Josh? Who gives a shit?
Well, how's
Right?
Adamson gonna look when one of his fucking fellow officers? He's like, oh, is he upset about it? And he's like, yeah, but that's not like illegal. And then he goes and takes it down
Yeah.
anyway. Like,
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
they try to they bend the fucking rules of the law to do whatever the fuck they feel like, you know?
Yep.
It's like, oh well,
And
like I think Josh is upset, so therefore this has to come down. You'll get in trouble if it doesn't come down. That's what he told her.
Yeah. And them sitting there talking with Eamon. Eamon's like, well, you guys got to do something. You guys got to arrest him for something. And they're like
Yeah.
listening to him and just like, yeah, we'll find.
Yes,
like,
sir.
Yeah, we'll find something. Don't
Yes,
worry.
Daddy.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
we'll
Daddy.
Find something. Yeah. Thank you, Rubate, with the 5 Australian. Appreciate it. At this stage, it would be fair to consider the civil rights training is deliberately avoided in AFPD. Even the council may be liable to not assist. Maybe, yeah. The thing is, when you have 9 officers that were involved in the reckless Ben situation that have no kind of civil rights training at all, but for some reason, some of them do have PR, which is public relations and media training, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy to me, right? That they're more concerned with officers knowing how to deal with the press and how to handle themselves in if there's cameras and microphones around, right? How to handle themselves in those situations, right? But not know that how they would be violating people's basic civil rights by how they handle arresting people.
Call him a
How they
pendejo,
handle
John.
it. Super pendejo.
Hell yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, it just that's crazy to me. It's just like, yeah, we'll get you guys ready for in case there's people are recording or if the press is there and they shove a microphone in your face, you guys know how to deal with them. But hey, civil rights, fuck that. You guys don't need to know about that.
To get over.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I wanted to talk to you briefly today about the the Reckless Ben saga, the Lego raid, and everything that transpired around that.
Oh, here we go.
My
Here we go.
understanding is that you intend or anticipate being involved in that civil rights litigation.
Oh shit.
Now,
Okay.
before I get involved in that, what I like to do for my channel members is when I do.
So you hear that? So he might, Mr. Solomon Radner here might end up being involved in that case against American Fork PD. That'll be interesting.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so
That'd
excited.
be great. Yeah.
These
These interviews.
assholes
Yep.
need to come down, bro. They do.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I want to give them an opportunity to ask some questions. And so I have 4 for you that I've selected to ask. So the first is, I recently released the training records for the American Fork Police Department. Now, if you don't want to talk about any topic because you don't want to give strategy away or anything, obviously, I completely understand that. But I'm going to ask them, you answer how you see fit. Do you see a concern with the military type and use of force training that police officers are getting, especially when compared to the training they actually get in constitutional rights of the members of the public?
Well, yeah. I mean, just from 30,000 feet, I think that the force that's often used is ridiculously excessive. Often it's very unnecessary. I've had police officers literally pull people out of the car by their hair and then jerk their hair and kind of pull it and throw them down to the ground to gain control over some ridiculous thing. Like reaching for their license. I had a cop actually here in Michigan grab a woman by the hair and jerk her out of the car and throw her down onto the ground and get protected by qualified immunity. The use of force continuum that they rely on to get more and more and more violent is improper. It's not appropriate. It shouldn't be happening. But unfortunately, once force is permitted, very often the courts will find qualified immunity no matter how much force is used. And that's just the cold hard reality of it.
What is one specific moment where you thought, yes, I made the right choice to become a civil rights attorney?
Wow. That's a tough question. Why don't you tell me yours?
Well, I think every time, where I will tell you actually is one that I think means a lot to me is I represented a military spouse who, because of her service as a spouse, had moved around the country. She was a licensed counselor. And so every time she had to pick up and move to support her husband, the state would say, you need a brand new license. You need to go through our licensing process. And then as a result, she would get the license, but then they would pack up and move to a new state. Well, Congress changed that recently to say that because of these issues, because it's a well-known issue, that states have to recognize reciprocity or accept the license of military spouses if the only reason they're in the state is because of their military service or of their spouse. And so I represented a counselor who moved to Texas. She already had licenses from other states, but Texas refused to accept her license. No one would help her with it. The bureaucracy got in the way. So I stepped in, filed a lawsuit, and we got a permanent injunction against the state of Texas, and got them to basically get their license. And there were trickle down effects. All of a sudden, I had military spouses calling me, and without me filing a lawsuit, I would just send an email, and all of a sudden they were getting their licenses. So to me, that was pretty impactful. It was the first of its kind in the country, and I thought, wow, maybe I am doing something that is bigger than me. Now, what I was going to say for you, I have heard to me, I thought this was pretty powerful, and I don't know how much is civil rights, but
let me just pause it a moment there. And that's the thing. This is, again, this case is bigger. It's a big deal because of, again, all the twofold, right? For one, holding a multi-million-dollar, corporation accountable for bullying people, for lack of a better way to put it, or trying to use their position to just bully people. The same thing with the police department, even though it's a small police department, them using what they think is their power to violate people's civil rights, and think they're just going to call it a day. I guess they think because they've gotten away with it before, it's just like, okay, well, we're a small town, we'll just get through it, whatever, move on next. But there's a history here of them doing it, and it's super egregious. Like I said, every situation we saw with the American Fork Police Department, it just got worse and worse and worse. And mind you, the one that we started with was the one that was furthest back, right? The lady that didn't open the door. That was bad. And then you have the Thorpes, where they literally rush into these people's home, charge in, no warrant, just charge into their home, right? And just manhandle this woman. And they try to drag her out. And they do it based on unsubstantiated claims against her, which is insane. They were there just for a citation. They weren't even there to arrest her, because they had no cause to arrest her. They were there to drop off a fucking piece of paper.
Well, remember, she's under arrest, but she's not going to jail. Remember that.
Which is weird. Yeah. So they weren't there, but still they weren't there to arrest her. That's the crazy thing. That's not an issue right there. They were there to drop off a piece of paper, not a warrant, just a citation. So they had no reason to enter that home, but yet they did. They rushed in there. And then when they realized they fucked up, they tried to rationalize it after the fact. They tried to justify it after the fact. And then the most
dude who grappled onto her arm, remember, he's like, you want to talk about it? Well, you remember he said that?
Yeah, he wanted to be a nice cop after the fact. It's just like, dude, it's too late. You guys messed up. And that's the one that's still in litigation right now. And then the worst instance, of course, was the guy who got bum rushed to the ground. Actually, that was actually the first instance, because that's the one that dates back the furthest. But that was terrible. The guy, again, yeah, tackled down to the ground. They beat the shit out of him. He ended up settling with them, but still, no repercussions for that. So, not a bad PD come up. Okay, I don't know what that's all about.
You were involved in a case where a guy was wrongfully convicted and you actually got him out of jail, right? To me, that's like that. You changed someone's life, at least to the expect that you could. And I'm sure you've impacted at this point thousands of lives all over the country, because I know you do these all over the country. But is there that one moment that sticks out above the rest?
You know, it's interesting. I actually have walked out a few people from prison. I'm working on several more as we speak. And
Good.
that is without question the most rewarding legal work that I do. And I've gotten sizable verdicts and I've gotten sizable settlements, and I've gone to trial and gotten not guilty verdicts on cases that I truly believed in. But without a doubt, the most rewarding legal work I've ever done is walking innocent people out of prison. The first time I did it, in fact, I still think it's my LinkedIn picture, is the first time I did it with a client in 2017. I walked him out of prison. It was a tough hearing. We took it up to the Court of Appeals. We ended up arguing for a new trial. We got the new trial, got him a personal bond. And it was such a sad, tragic case. The amazing thing about the innocence community, and I do a lot of work with the innocence community, and I've spent a lot of time with them, and I've spent a lot of time in a room with people who have been exonerated after sometimes decades of wrongful incarceration. The amazing thing is that the overwhelming majority of these folks who have been incarcerated improperly for decades, they're not bitter and they're not angry. They're happy to be out and they're grateful to be living their lives. They're some of the happiest people I've ever seen. They're not happy about what happened to them, but as far as just overall happiness, they're happy, they're grateful, they're not bitter. It's unbelievable. It's one of the most amazing things that I've ever seen. I will tell you one more thing. There was another moment that I had, which I believed in, which I know some people who watch this kind of YouTube videos may not appreciate so much. But I very strongly believe in due process, and I don't care whose rights are being violated. I don't care if it's a law enforcement officer or a prisoner who's sitting in prison, and I've represented both in civil rights cases. But there was a civil rights case that I filed a few years ago on behalf of a police officer who was being, I felt, targeted in violation of his constitutional rights. He was suspended. He was about to be terminated. It was a real problem. I filed a due process lawsuit for him, and I don't want to say which case it was or which department it was. They did what I think is a little bit of a dirty move. They kind of pulled him and his union into a private room, settled my lawsuit, had him sign a statement that the lawsuit was a bunch of bogus and everything in it was false, but they gave him everything we were seeking, everything of substance that we were seeking in the lawsuit. So next thing I know, I get an email from the defense attorney.
It sounds like they did that just to try to discredit the lawyer.
Yeah.
It seems like a petty move just to discredit this guy. Like, it's just like, we'll give you everything you want, but just throw mud on his name, basically.
Well, do you think they'd try that with Ben? Like, I'll give Brian everything he wants. I'll give you guys everything you want, but you guys say that Ben is like full of shit, that this is faked. It'll never work.
But
it'll never work, but I feel like
it would.
Yeah, it'll never work. But still, do you think they would stoop to that?
Well, I think, look, in the because again, we've talked about this a bunch. Settlement is the most likely scenario in this case. I think what Bricks and Minifigs will want, we've said this before, is potentially, if they don't want Ben to take down all of his videos regarding them, if that's not what's on the table for settlement, if they say like, listen, we'll let bygones be bygones, just take down all your videos about us and issue a statement saying that you got some of the things wrong, because remember, I think if you guys, I know that a lot of people have been making or were making content on the quartering, but there was actually a case involving the quartering some years back where he had been assaulted by somebody at Gen Con, which is the largest tabletop gaming convention here in the country. He went there, I think it was back in 2018. He was assaulted by some guy, sued him, then they ended up settling the lawsuit. The guy had to pay him an undisclosed amount. And then as part of the settlement for the guy having to pay him out, they both had to upload a video basically saying that they had settled the lawsuit as part of the settlement, that they would no longer talk about each other at all, right? That it would just be, they would go their separate ways, and that that's it pretty much. They put out a video. Now the guy that assaulted the quartering, he put in his video that he essentially did what he did because of what he thought was an attack on him. He tried to justify it, which was kind of Weasley in his little, video. But I think that what Bricks and Minifigs would want is something like that, is maybe some kind of video, not necessarily an apology from Ben per se, but kind of sort of something of him acknowledging like, hey, well, can you just say you didn't get it all right? You know what I mean? That basically what you did was you kind of did what you did, but you didn't have all the facts. They would probably want to have him do something like that in terms of a settlement, and have him put it on his YouTube channel, and then just say, hey, now that the lawsuit is settled, we're not going to talk about Bricks and Minifigs anymore. We're moving on. We're not going to talk anything regarding the case, and that's it. I would think that they would probably want something like that, just so that they can try to rebuild their reputation in the public space, and they could at least cite that video and be like, see, Ben didn't get it all right. He said right there in his video, whatever, but I'm not saying that that's what would happen. I'm saying I would think that would be something that they would want, though. Right. I can see that as being something that is so that they don't seem as, so they don't seem as much at fault, even though a lot of this, I think, especially from what we've seen publicly, is pretty obviously their fault, right? A good degree of it. But they would probably want to mitigate some of that blame a little bit. So they would probably have Ben or Brian or whoever else, put out some kind of public statement, whether it's a typed up statement from their lawyers or some kind of video.
Misunderstanding. We're sorry.
Exactly. Some kind of acknowledgement that maybe it was all just one big misunderstanding on both sides or something like that. Something that'll make them look less at fault after the fact. So I'm just, that's what I would think. Again, that's pure speculation on my part. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. It could just be, maybe they'll just have a clean break where they just silently go ahead and they come to an agreement. There's an undisclosed amount of money that's exchanged, and then they both just quietly part ways and maybe never even mention the other. Maybe at most all they say is that they're not going to speak anymore on the matter, and that's it. That could end up being one of the results. So
could be,
we'll have to see. Yeah, because me and Orr have seen plenty of lawsuits settled. Like again, one of the ones that we covered pretty that we covered for a bit was the Zero versus Jisoo lawsuit. Yeah. And in the end, basically as part of the settlement, all Jisoo wanted was not Zero, but but Technicals. Friend of the channel, Technicals, who covers a lot of stuff that happens in the Smash community. All she wanted was Zero to basically ask Technicals as part of the settlement to take down his video. And because, Technicals is a stand-up guy, he said, yeah, sure, no problem. And he took down his video. He did that for Zero, in order to settle that lawsuit. But on the flip side of that, Jisoo had to basically take down her article that she wrote about Zero, and basically, never mention his name again in the public space. It's basically, I go my way, you go your way, and that's it. So, all right, we'll continue this video here.
He's saying, hey, check this out. We got the signed letter from your client. You got to dismiss your lawsuit now. And I took a look at it. I called up my client. He goes, yeah, they gave me everything I wanted. What do you want me to do? I said, hey, good for you. God bless you. That's great.
So even if they do this, right, even if they're trying to pay off the Mansells, I don't think that Brian Mansell would turn on Ben. I think what the settlement would probably be would be something to the effect of like, the Mansells get paid off, but you guys, all right, give Brian his money for the Legos, pay his legal fees, and just leave him alone. And Brian would probably be like, I'll take this, right? I'll take the money you guys are offering, pay my legal fees, pay Ben's legal fees, and fuck off and leave us alone. I'm not going to publicly disparage Ben if that's what you're expecting from me. If part of me taking the settlement is me throwing Ben under the bus or disparaging Ben publicly for any reason, not going to do it. Not going to do it. So I don't see a scenario where Brian turns on Ben. I don't see, because again, if that were the case, he could have probably already done that, right? He would have settled immediately, but like, sure, I'll take the money. But the fact that he hasn't accepted it, I think speaks to the fact that he's probably not going to throw Ben under the bus. You got to think about it. The only reason anybody knows about this story is because of, I should say solely because of Ben, because remember, there was other people talking about it beforehand, but the reason why it reached the heights that it did was because of Ben's videos going viral.
Yeah.
So I don't see a scenario where Brian would turn on Ben, considering that the reason why Brian is in some ways, right, at least in from the legal standpoint, or at least in the lawsuit standpoint, is in a better position is largely because of Ben. So, and Ben's efforts. So he was a guy that didn't give up. Where others gave up on the story because they were afraid of litigation, Ben was the one that picked up that baton and he kept running. He kept running with it to his own detriment. Think about that. This guy got arrested. Anybody else in that position that if they didn't have the fortitude for it, would have been like, oh, fuck this. I ain't trying to get arrested and spend time in jail. They might have quit after the first time of being arrested. But he got arrested more than once and he still kept going. He's like, no, I'm still trying to get this guy's Legos back. So I don't think, or at least I would hope that kind of loyalty that Ben showed and that kind of conviction that Ben showed wouldn't have a price tag on it, right? For the Mansell family.
Yeah.
That it wouldn't have a monetary value. I would think that would be invaluable.
Yeah.
So,
100%. I think so too. But like, yeah.
It was very nice that I was able to help this decorated officer continue his career, and now he's back to doing what he's good at, keeping us safe.
No, that's a huge point. The Constitution is blind, and I think what I would hope that a lot of what my audience wants is the same thing we want, and that's objectivity, right? It should, in fairness. And so I also remember it's beyond just police officers too, because we've had a case together where we represented a council member where they were trying to get shafted by city council. And I've represented other.
What they were trying to do to him was very dirty. We actually filed again a due process lawsuit. I think there was a First Amendment retaliation lawsuit in there as well. And what happened in that case was there were city council members that were trying to oust this particular city councilman. And we filed a lawsuit on his behalf, sought an injunction, got an injunction. We got a federal court judge to issue an order telling that city council that they are not allowed to throw this man off of council, like they did to somebody else the previous year, if I recall. And then shortly thereafter, there was a recall election, and the council people who were trying to do this, again, what I'll call a dirty move, actually all got recalled and got thrown off of the council. I don't know what's happened since then. This was a number of years ago, but that was a very meaningful case.
They've
That was
been
a very
pretty
important case
quiet.
that we did.
Yeah, as far as I know, they've been quiet. So I think the citizens stepping up and seeing what was going on, and then our efforts as well, I think really made a difference. Now, this question is specific to this case, and I understand there's a lot of data, a lot of information for you still to look at, but it seems like a common theme with Utah is the giant Mormon community. And so this question is from one of my members: do you anticipate religion coming up in this civil rights litigation?
I don't
Or
know
is
the
it
answer
too
to
soon
that.
to tell?
That's a very good question. And again, like I said, or maybe like you said, I don't remember exactly what my comments were at this juncture, but I am likely going to get involved in this case in some capacity in the very near future. I'm not really free to say much more than that at this point, but I'm sure that it'll be known fairly soon.
So that's an interesting question, because there's always, I think there's opposing sides to that question, right? Of how much the Mormon aspect plays into it. You know, we've heard the Mormon mafia phrase thrown in there. I'm not sure how much of that really factors in to them, to the decisions that the American Fork Police Department made. I mean, we can't completely dismiss it, right? It's at least a possibility, right? But I don't think that that's solely it either. You know, I mean, I just don't. I think that they're just, the American Fork Police Department is just poorly trained and just.
I thought you were going to say retarded.
Well, yeah, they're obviously retarded. That too. They're poorly trained. They're retarded. They're just. Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, they're just not very good at what they do. I mean, I don't think that
Oh
has
my
anything
God.
at all. I mean, I
We're
don't think that has
retarded?
anything at all. Yeah, I don't think that has anything at all to do with just them being Mormons, right? I mean, again, we can't dismiss the possibility that factors into their decisions for sure. Yeah, but I don't think that that's like one of the primary things, despite what people might think. But I mean, sure, it might play a role in some of the decisions that they made towards Josh and towards Brandon. Maybe, sure, we can't dismiss that possibility. But I think they're just highly inept. That's it. They're just.
Yeah.
I think they're just really bad at what they do, for more than anything else, and they've shown that on occasion. Like I said, because if you look at all the instances that we went over, that they just did horribly. That's it.
Yeah.
They just did horribly.
Yeah.
So yeah, let me go back to the video here though.
I never like to inject race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, age, anything like that. I really don't like to inject that into a case unless it's absolutely necessary and unless you have to. And if you have to, the only way to do it is by confronting it. If I'm trying a case in an area where everybody is A and this person is B, and that could be anything, that could be any race, any religion, anything. I live in a very predominantly Jewish area, and I have done some litigation with some of my friends in New Jersey in some very predominantly Jewish areas. And that's a concern that I've heard there as well. What I can tell you is, and this is just something that I think applies to everybody, nobody likes the bad apples. You do want to protect your own. There certainly is that element for, I think, a lot of people that are part of any sort of, again, religion, race, whatever it might be. I think there is going to be that desire inside to protect somebody. But at the same time, you're not going to want that person making your people look bad. And in a case like this, I don't know how much the Mormon Church is going to come up. I really don't. I don't anticipate it being a big deal. I don't know yet.
Yeah, and I have to agree with him there, because again, when we look at the situations with the other people involved, right? These are all people from American Fork, and presumably all if not most of them, especially the ones that had their civil rights violated, there's a good chance they were probably all Mormon, right? But the American Fork Police Department has this really bad habit of not really doing their due diligence and getting both sides of the story. They just don't. They take one side over the other, and once they've decided that they're going to take take one side over the other. That's it. They just kind of dig their heels in and do that, because in the case in the case of the Thorpes, they basically took the side of the Thorpes' neighbors, the Sanchez's, right? They took their side over the Thorpes. They didn't even go and talk to the Thorpes and get their side of the story. They just took the side of the Sanchez's, and that's it, which was
Because
crazy
she kept complaining. Yeah.
Yeah, because she kept complaining and calling them, and they kept coming to her house first. They took her side. And if you hear her talking, she sounds ridiculous because she's sitting there saying, oh, she's throwing rocks at me. And I have it on video, but I don't have it on video because you don't actually see her in the video throwing rocks at me, but I know that it's her, even though you can't see it in the video. And that sounds so ridiculous because it's like, it could just be the wind blowing some pebbles over. It could be there could be a whole bunch of other things that explain it, but she's convinced it's the neighbor, but she has no proof. And then she says that, she's like, it's her, but I don't have her on video doing it, but I have other cameras, but not a single one of the cameras that she had around her property captured her neighbor ever throwing rocks at her, ever, or anybody at the Thorpes house doing it. But yet they took her side.
I was gonna say what else, because she lectured one of the cops. Remember, she's like, "This isn't funny." I'm scared.
Yeah.
Because what is it? Yeah, she was like going on and on about something, and like he started smiling or laughing or whatever. She's like, "This is not funny." Like she lectured him to do something about it. It's crazy.
Yeah,
and he did it.
Yeah,
and he did it.
It's his name. Yeah, and he did. Yeah, and violated another person's rights in the process by doing it.
If I get some emails or text messages that are to the contrary, obviously, if it becomes an issue, we'll have to deal with it. But I very seriously would, at least at this juncture, I'd be very hesitant to say that the Mormon Church has anything to do with this. I think that there's going to be plenty of very good people who are going to look at this, who are Mormons, and they're going to say, this is wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've heard, and again, I don't know how true it is, but there's been reports of supposedly Josh getting kicked off the high council at his church because they heard about what was going on.
Yeah.
So
well, that kid, remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
The Mormon
So if
kid.
that's true, right? Yeah. If that's true that he's been kicked out of the high council, that goes and shows you right there. They're just like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Like you're putting us in a bad light. It's just like you're one of the high representatives of our church here, and look at the stuff you're doing. Like what's going on?
Eso no se hace.
No, yeah.
I don't care what religion this guy is. This is not supposed to happen. These guys need to be held accountable. So at this juncture, I know that there's a lot of people online talking about this. At this juncture, I'm not willing to make any comment like that. And I have no reason to believe that anybody in this case is going to be anything other than fair and impartial.
No, I agree with that, because I'm sure, as you've seen across the country, when you have police departments or police officers acting in a bad way, it doesn't matter what motives are there. Matter of fact, in the terms of qualified immunity, courts don't even look at subjective intent usually. They look at, objectively what a reasonably prudent officer would have done, whatever the heck that means. But
Alley case, any reasonable officer, one of my favorite. I'll tell you real quick, just 10 seconds, maybe 30 seconds. I had a judge actually say, I cross-examined a cop once, and he admitted that based on the knowledge that was present, he did not have probable cause to arrest my client. I said, great. I put that in front of the judge, and he goes, I don't care what his subjective knowledge was. This goes by the objective reasonable officer, any reasonable officer. And any reasonable officer would have thought that he had probable cause. And my head started spinning. My head started hurting after the judge said that. I actually had to take that up to the Court of Appeals. Thankfully, I won that one. But the fact that a judge would even go so far as to say, yes, you know that what you did was wrong, but any other reasonable officer may not know that. It takes a lot for me to be shocked. I was shocked after that ruling.
Yeah, gotta love that reasonable officer standard. Even though every department has different standards across the country, it's just such a moving target that gives courts, I think, an easy way out. All right, so So the
doubt.
last question from my member is, have you noticed, so people have watched the body camera footage in these, there were redactions initially, then I guess they accidentally released, the police department did, unredacted body camera footage. So you have redaction
Those are
issues,
great.
and then you have the fact that the officers are constantly muting their body cameras. So this is a 30,000 level question. Have you noticed unnecessary or excessive body camera redactions in other cases? And in terms of civil rights litigation, is there any remedy for that, or do you just have to deal with it?
Yeah, so the courts are still trying to catch up to this. I've seen this happen multiple times. This happens all the time. Anytime a cop does something wrong and he's got a camera on, he either covers it up, turns it off, mutes it. I've seen this happen countless times, as I'm sure you have. And there have been enough times that I have filed motions for what's called an adverse inference instruction, which is if somebody intentionally destroys evidence, then you're allowed to instruct the jury that they can assume, they can make an adverse inference that whatever was on that was going to be adverse to the party who controlled it and destroyed it. Now, the problem is that if they mute something, they're not technically destroying something. So it still is well within that same umbrella of what adverse inference is attempting to and designed to fix, but the courts have not quite caught up with it yet. However, and this is something that's a little bit more interesting, sometimes you have a situation where a cop does something and their camera is on buffering mode. And the way it works is your camera can be off, buffering, or recording. If it's off, it's not catching anything. If it's on and recording, it's catching audio and video. If it's in buffering mode, then it's not picking up audio, but it is picking up what can be seen. And then if you hit record later, it preserves the last anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes, depending on how those particular cameras are designed. So in other words, let's say something happens, you and I get into a fight, I got a body camera on a buffering mode, and then the fight lasts, a good 20 seconds. Afterwards, if I hit record, it's going to preserve those last 30 seconds of footage, and we're going to see how the fight started. If I don't touch it, that buffering goes away. And if I turn it off, it gets destroyed forever. So I had a case where a cop did something that was clearly wrong, and the jury spoke quite clearly about it and said that what he did was wrong. And right after he did it, his camera, which was on buffering mode, he turned off. And that destroyed that footage. So we went to the court and said, hey, this was clearly destroyed. The footage was there, it existed, and then when he clicked off, that destroyed that footage. And even in that case, where we were able to prove intent, and we proved the cop even lied about it during his deposition because of something called audit trail logs, which I'm not going to bore your viewers with, still the court did not give us an adverse inference instruction. So we see it happen all the time. The good news is that juries are not quite as dumb as, well, the juries are able to pick up on what's going on. Generally speaking, if you're talking to a jury and they know that.
So just add on to something here, because when we had BBQ on the other night, he talked about how the laws in Utah kind of protect the police when they decide to go ahead and mute their body cam. How they kind of, the law kind of it's written in such a way that they can argue their way out of doing that. I believe if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, or it was something to that effect. I forget specifically what he said. It's escaping me right now, but
I think you're right. I don't think you're wrong.
yeah,
Like,
you recall
basically it's- Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think it was like legal loopholes and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
it's like a legal loophole that they have.
what is it? Like for example, like had the police department said they were hacked, or had they been hacked, that footage would not be municipal in court. But
Yeah,
since they, did it themselves, and even though it was an accident, it's still considered an official statement, and they can use it against them in court. So
correct. Yeah, because now if they had been hacked, it wouldn't have been admissible in court. But because they weren't hacked and they accidentally leaked it themselves,
Mhm.
it is going to be admissible.
yeah, even
Because
though
of that.
it was accidental, even though they didn't want it out there, and they
Yeah,
like
because-
doxed a fuck ton of people. Like,
Correct, but because they're the ones that put it out there, it still would constitute as a kind of official release.
yeah,
Is I believe what was said. So
stupid.
Cops are doing something wrong.
I
Yes.
bet
and
you
they're already
whoever put
ready
that shit there is mega fired. Like, they made you that person. I made you that fucking person. They're like, fuck you, Chad. All you had to do is fucking upload it, bro. Fuck you, Chad. Like, they just like fucking, and Chad's like, I'm so sorry. Like, get the fuck out of here. I don't want to see you again, Chad.
You're fired. Oh man.
It's the only cop who's been fired from the fucking AFPD. Fucking the guy who uploaded to the wrong Dropbox. Fuck
Yeah,
that guy.
AFPD. They're like, you've ruined our lives.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine if the person did it on purpose?
Yeah, I know, right? Oops.
Then afterwards, it was like their last day on the job. It's like,
Fuck you,
last day on the
Adamson.
job, fuck it. It's like last day on the job. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Fuck you,
know?
Adamson. Click.
Yeah.
Fucking upload.
They just say screw it.
Oh
Screw it,
man.
right?
Oh man.
Hold on.
John, you remember that SpongeBob song? Well, you probably don't, because I don't know if you've ever watched SpongeBob, but like the fucking "Rip My Pants," right? Like, it's like, oh, he act like a fool and shit. I feel like that's kind of what they did. I feel like that's their theme song, John. I'll play it for you later, but that's literally their theme song. They fucked up big.
Oh yeah. All right, hold on, real quick. Just because it's fun. Just because it's fun.
Oh no, what you got?
AFPD, bro. AFPD.
Okay.
The guy who released the footage, right? And AFPD after the fact.
Okay. What you got?
You have ruined my life.
You have ruined my life.
So stupid,
Just
bro.
imagine the guy who released the footage.
Yeah.
That's the guy. He's just like after the fact. He just as he walks out of the police department, with his box of stuff from his desk.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh shit.
Rule that, and then they see that suddenly now the cameras are being muted. Like in one case, I had to get muted, and right afterwards, camera got turned off. The last thing that was said was the guy saying to his buddy, "No cameras." Said it very quietly, but you have to play it very loud. You can hear it. I deposed both of them. Both didn't remember the words "no cameras" being said.
That
and
reminds
both had
me.
no
That reminds me of Adamson. You got these douchebags. Oh, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. Oh, Bill writes in chat. Bill writes in chat. Like, he reminded me too, especially with the incident they had with the guy that they beat the hell out of him. Like, remember towards the end, they muted their fucking body cam, so we'll never know what the fuck they said to him.
Well, before that, remember when they first got out of when the one officer first got out of the car, we don't know what he said.
Yeah.
Which is insane. Like, we don't know what exactly he told him when he was approaching him either. So
yeah.
Recollection
like,
of what was said afterwards.
We'll never know, man.
Of course not.
I know.
Yeah, we'll never know a lot of what was said on that one. Not at the beginning and not towards the end of that one, which is unfortunate because I wish in that particular instance, you kind of wish that the guy didn't settle, just to get more accountability. But it is what it is. It's already done. It can't go back, unfortunately.
Very shocking.
In the buffering, is that when you're watching the body camera footage, you'll hear the little buzzing sounds? Is that kind of that state you're talking about?
Yeah. So when you're
people can
watching
hear
footage
that.
and it goes from silent, but you can see what's happening, to suddenly hear like a click or a buzz, and it lasts maybe a fraction of a second, and then you can start hearing audio. That's when they switched it from buffering to recording. And that's why it preserved those last 30, 60, 90, 120 seconds, and you're actually able to see what happened. Sometimes that footage is more important than what you have afterwards, because that's what sets off the whole thing for why the cop hit record.
Yeah, no, that absolutely. So now about this, I'll call it the Lego saga. So, you anticipate being involved on the civil rights front, not really the criminal front, and not really on the civil litigation involving the injunction piece. So specifically civil rights. And there's a number of incidents, right? Because we span over a course of several days. And what appears to me to be the most egregious concern is going into this home with a search warrant because of, quote, Airbnb. I guess the Airbnb owner overheard talking of Lego, even though there was no Lego investigation. There was no reported Lego theft that they were handling, but they used it because they wanted to get into the home to apparently
I always seem to forget that.
arrest all the
That always
occupants
goes over my
inside.
head sometimes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That there was no actual person reporting stolen Legos. It was just a
Yes.
guy who was like, I heard something, and then that's it.
And that was enough. That was enough to go on, right? Not any kind of an investigation leading up to it. It's just like, I heard there were stolen Legos. And again, it goes back, and this is why
It just makes it look like a setup, John. Like they had enough time to get a fucking warrant from the judge to get this going. Like,
well, yeah, for sure. And it makes me think that, again, on the side, what we didn't hear, right? When the body cam, because remember, not all the redaction in the body cam, there's still points where
they muted
the cameras. So it makes me wonder if there's ever a point in some of that muted audio where Josh himself brings up and says, I think these guys stole Legos too. I think they stole Legos, and I think you guys need to investigate them for that. If he brought that up, because remember, there's a point in time in the body cam footage where one of the officers, I think it might be Tonga, it might be one of the other ones, calls Josh and lets him know that they raided that Airbnb and arrested Ben. And it's just like, why are you going to go tell him that? You know what I mean? Yeah. Why did you make it a point to announce that to Josh? So that's what makes me think maybe there's, in one of those instances where the body cam is muted, that might have come up, that might have been something that Josh passed along to them, either when he called them or maybe when they were there. But at some point in time, I think that might have been something that Josh did mention. It just was never recorded on audio because one of the body cams was muted. Because it seems awfully convenient, again, that that's something that Josh had said to Ben. And not just that, Josh has a history. We know this. Josh has a history of accusing other people of stealing Legos because he did it to Relic.
Mm-hmm.
Remember? Josh and Brandon accused Relic of stealing Legos too, and then Relic had to prove that he didn't.
Yeah.
Relic, who is a former franchisee, right?
Yeah.
They accused him of stealing Legos. They obviously were okay with accusing, Crystal of the same thing by virtue of the fact it's just like, well, she did everything wrong, which again, there is a good possibility that she did do some things that were negligent, but just, the implications there, right? And then the thing of the heroin, right? She was dealing heroin out of her shop. And then, they think that Ben has heroin in his car or whatever, right?
Right.
That seems awfully convenient, right? I don't believe that that's a coincidence when you have these specific things that were said by somebody beforehand on more than one occasion, and then it comes back up again out of the blue to this police department. Yeah, I don't think that that's a coincidence.
There's something, John, I hope communications come out, because I know Josh's communications might have to come out with the American Fork Police Departments as well, right? I want to see what they were talking about, or at least hear some of the recorded shit.
Yes, and that's I would love to see discovery, especially for the American Fork case.
Yeah,
but I don't think it'll ever get that far. I think they'll settle way before that. I think that they'll be quick to settle because they know that if it gets to discovery and certain communications are turned over, it's going to destroy the reputation of that police department even more. I think that there'll be stuff in there that is going to be so egregious and so damning that those guys, they're not going to have anywhere to bury their head in the sand. You know what I mean? Where they could possibly bury their head in the sand, because they're going to look so bad. I think that's why I think that'll be instantly, no, let's just settle. Let's just settle. We don't want this to go to discovery. We don't want any of this stuff. Let's just give them money and hope they'll go away. So
if you want to talk about it, but do you see that, at least right now, based on just the initial evaluation, is it as concerning for you as it is for me that
to answer this question, yes, you can. In a civil trial, yes, you can subpoena text messages from providers. That is possible. It's a pain in the ass to do, from my understanding. It's usually best for those to be preserved and the person that has them to just hand them over. But they can. Yes, it is possible to subpoena text messages from a provider. It's just a pain in the ass process to do. Like phone companies, they make sure that you have to have all your ducks in a row on the legal side for them to hand that stuff over. So
You use a search warrant to arrest a bunch of people.
Absolutely. One of the, in my opinion, most egregious things that were done in this case was that search warrant. And if you look at what was actually released, the warrant affidavit explains why they were there. And it's because the Airbnb owner told the police that he heard them talking about possibly Lego toys they had taken. Okay, not that he overheard them talking about stolen Legos, which is very possible that he did, because they were talking about stolen Legos. They were there for a lawsuit about stolen Legos, but that's not enough to create probable cause to break into somebody's home with guns drawn and rifles pointed at them, and without knocking, just by opening the door, which is of course all on video. But it's that added part, they had taken. That's the golden language that I think is going to be very problematic, not only for the police, but also for this Airbnb owner, because one of two things happened here. Either the Airbnb owner actually said that to the police, those words they had taken, meaning referring to the people in the Airbnb, referring to the Lego that they had taken. The Airbnb owner either actually said that to the police, in which case he bought himself a lawsuit, or he did not say it to the police, in which case the police fabricated it and they bought themselves another cause of action in this soon-to-be filed lawsuit, which I'm sure will be filed by whichever lawyers ultimately file it.
And mind you, that's why I think they'll be quick to settle, because if there's any kind of messages between the owner of the Airbnb, like text messages or a recorded call or any of that, it's going to look really bad. It's going to look really bad either way. It's going to look really bad either way, because let's say he did say
Could you imagine? Done. Imagine being one of them motherfuckers and you got to watch yourself, or like you have to relive that. And like you have to sit there and watch that. Would you not be embarrassed?
Yeah, it's going to be so bad. Because again, if the owner said that verbatim to the police, now he's on the hook and could be added to that lawsuit, right? And then, or they could, or he opens himself up to a suit, right? And then you have the police, if it's the police, right, that fabricated that just to get in there, that looks horrible for the police. Not that they don't already look bad, but even worse, right? And that's why I don't think they'll let it get that far where they have to release those communications. I think they'll just be like, fuck it, man, let's just settle. Let's just settle, because, we're already getting completely destroyed. This comes out, this is just going to completely destroy what little reputation we have left. So
Yeah.
let's not, I mean, the public trust has already been eroded. We don't need to put this out there more. Nobody will ever trust us again. Let's come to the table with them.
Behalf of whichever plaintiffs they ultimately file it for. Now, the police chief actually announced that this was a knock and announce warrant. And if you watch the video footage, there's no knock, there's no announce. They just walk around, open the door, guns drawn, order everybody out. In my opinion, it certainly seems like they, at the very least, detain, if not arrest everybody, transport them to the jail, detain them, question them, interrogate them for hours and hours and hours, and then don't charge anybody except for Ben with some weak criminal charges.
Yeah, and then the video that was released, of course, it looked like the Airbnb owner was in, I believe, the Lieutenant Adamson's truck. And I think it was Lieutenant Adamson. I'm sure the audience is going to tell me exactly who it is. But the Airbnb owner was in one of the police officers' trucks.
It was Adamson.
And apparently, it sounds like they all knew each other as well. And apparently, they did something. There was reference to doing hydro with Desert Eagle. I know the community wants to know, and it sounds like we won't know until deposition. What exactly does that mean? And should that relationship and that interaction have been disclosed in the four corners of the affidavit when presenting it to the judge. But I'm not going to ask you to go into that right now, but
Very loaded
obviously it's
question.
on your mind, right?
Yeah, very loaded question. Obviously, that's something that's going to be fleshed out in discovery. Exactly what was said to whom, why it was given to the judge. I know there was another case recently where a judge got very upset at police officers for not being truthful with him about a particular search warrant. I don't know if that's the case here. Obviously, it's something that we'll probably learn as discovery goes on. Now, I will tell you this, and I'm sure this is something that you know. We are permitted to take a judge's deposition in discovery.
That's right.
As far as what was said and what they got, and obviously there are certain things we're allowed to ask about and there are certain things we're not allowed to ask about, but we are permitted to take judges' depositions in discovery, and who knows, maybe that'll happen in this case. But it's certainly going to be interesting to find out exactly what was said to the police, whether this supposed statement that the Airbnb owner says to the officers that he overheard these guys talking about Legos that they had taken, if there's a recording of that somewhere. We know that when Officer Sumbot called the court and asked if the lawsuit papers were real, he kept his body camera on. Law enforcement officers, as far as I know, are trained regularly that if they make any phone calls or talk to any witnesses, that they're supposed to keep their body cameras on and not mute them. So certainly if there's no recording of this conversation taking place, that's going to raise eyebrows for a number of other reasons. But yeah, the fact that all the people in the Airbnb deny making this statement is enough to create a question of fact as to whether the statement was made and whether the Airbnb owner actually overheard it. And then the question is going to be whether the Airbnb owner said it to the police or did not say it to the police. Either way, there's a good chance both of these folks are looking at lawsuits in the future.
All right, now the judge you mentioned there was a judge elsewhere getting upset with officer truthfulness in the search warrant. Are you talking about the case out of Texas?
That is the one.
That's my case.
Is it really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
The one where the
Yeah,
letter
we'll have
wrote the judge wrote a very, very nasty letter.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll have
Look,
to
my
talk-
only comment on that is officers should not lie to judges,
That
but they do for two reasons.
they shouldn't
First
lie to
and
anybody.
foremost,
but-
what's that?
They shouldn't be lying to anybody, but
Yeah, but when they lie to a
Especially under
judge,
oath.
that could be considered perjury. In fact, most affidavits say on them under penalty of perjury. Have you ever seen a police officer get prosecuted for committing perjury in an affidavit?
no.
Of course, the answer is no. I haven't either. And I've done this work, like you said, in about 25 or 26 states right
You're
now.
back, Or.
I've never, ever, ever seen that. And
Didn't realize you dropped.
19
oh,
up.
crap.
Standards across the
no.
country.
You're good.
Sorry about that. All right.
You're good.
not going to announce warrant.
You're fine.
And if you watch the video footage, there's no knock, there's no
Let me fast forward here a little bit. Sorry about that. I accidentally.
question. Obviously, that's something that's going to be fleshed out in discovery. And asked if the lawsuit papers were real. He kept his body camera on.
Just forwarding it here just a little bit. I meant to
Start
pause
Getting
it.
upset with
can you
officer
hear me?
truthfulness in the search warrant. Are you talking
Yeah,
about the case out of Texas?
Rose sent you too.
That is the
Forward this- Just yes,
letter?
that.
Yep.
yeah.
We'll have
look,
to talk to anybody, but
yeah, but when they lie to a
especially under
judge,
oath.
that's
Okay, we'll pause it there and let me. Thank you so much for the two. Rose Investigates. Appreciate it. Please review the BAM map updates. Sure. When we get a chance, we'll try to look
We
that
could
over.
do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
that could be
You
considered
know where to find them?
perjury. In
Where
fact,
they are?
most affidavits say on them under penalty of perjury. Have you ever seen a police officer get prosecuted for committing perjury in an affidavit?
no.
Of course, the answer is no. I haven't either. And I've done this work, like you said, in about 25 or 26 states right now. I've never, ever, ever seen that. And the cops know that. They know they're not going to get prosecuted. They know that even if they use excessive force, they break somebody's arm, they pretty much do whatever they want to do. Pointing a gun at somebody, as you know, is a felony unless you have a legal basis to do it. If a cop points a gun at somebody and there's no legal basis to do it, that could be a felony. And these guys know they're not going to get charged. I think the real way to make this stuff stop is not with lawsuits. That's all we can do. That's all we, the people, are able to do. But if we really want this misconduct to stop, lawsuits, I've heard a lot of people talk about different things that could potentially make it stop. Maybe pull the money from the cops' pensions, take it out of their own personal funds. The problem is that those are really not practical options. There's going to be insurance. Insurance companies are going to take care of it. Cities are going to have agreements, indemnification agreements with their officers. And the fact of the matter is, we're not going to get good cops who are willing to be on the force if they know that a bad cop could cost them their pension. So I don't think that's realistic. What is realistic is a prosecutor walking in and saying, you just committed perjury. I'm prosecuting you. It doesn't involve any other cops having to turn their own in. It doesn't have to do with any good cops losing their pension. And it's a way to really hold officers really accountable. So look, if there's an affidavit which clearly contains something false, you got to ask yourself, why did the cop have the audacity to do this? And the answer is because it works. They get what they want, which is those warrants. Judges practically rubber stamp them. And the other thing is because they know they're going to get away with it even if they're caught. So you know what? Maybe with your case, maybe the prosecutor will finally get involved. Maybe the FBI will get involved. Maybe the Texas Rangers will get involved. Maybe the Attorney General will get involved. Lying cops is not good for anybody. Lying cops is bad for everybody. You know who hates lying cops more than anybody in the world? Honest cops.
Yep.
Because they make their lives a living hell. The problem is we don't really have a mechanism in place for truthful, good, honest, good cops to come forward with information about the bad cops. It destroys their reputations. It destroys their careers. And they also know that nothing's going to happen as a result. So yes, it's about time that prosecutors get involved in this to a level where they start charging these guys with crimes. That's how you hold bad actors accountable. If they know they're possibly facing jail if they lie to a judge, maybe some of this will stop. And congratulations with that case. Good luck with it. I know you have your hands full. It's going to be a hell of a battle, but goodness gracious, you better kick some butt.
Hey, I learned from the best. Learn from the best. So the crazy thing about what you say, though, obviously, is just a twisted system because a lot of these district attorneys and prosecutors are in elected positions and they're relying on the police union endorsements and money and cooperation. But so that could be a whole other issue. But I absolutely agree with you that if there's some accountability somewhere, that's how you change it. But if there's no mechanism for accountability, you're just going to keep seeing these issues. But there is something else that this case reminded me of, the raid. So they go into this home with maybe a false search warrant affidavit with guns drawn, and then they handcuff everybody inside, and then they search the residence. Do you remember the case we did together in San Antonio where the police raided this home with this nurse and her autistic child, and they thought this was going to be the biggest drug bust in San Antonio history, and they based their entire affidavit on information they received from a, quote, confidential informant. And then when we got into discovery, they said, oh, we lost contact with that confidential informant. We don't know who he is, where he is. But then you get involved in the case, and you not only find out who the guy is, you track him down and completely blow up the police narrative and establish that they were full of crap in that affidavit. So when you compare that affidavit.
See, and that's one of the things I think that when we look at what's going to happen, right? When we look at what's going to happen, especially when he was talking about potentially having the judge for deposition, I think that has to do with whether or not that search warrant, right? When they got that search warrant from the judge, if it'll all be on what the pretense, I think, of what of him signing that search warrant. I think it'll have to do with that, right? I think what he was alluding to is the fact that maybe they lied to the judge to get that search warrant, which will be interesting to see what the judge has to say if they do end up going as far as deposition, which is, of course, possible, but I don't know. I guess it just depends because, like I said, even though I think what the police will try to do is settle to make sure that they don't have to go as far as discovery or anything like that, that might not be what Ben and his friends want. They might, no. They might say, no, screw your settlement. We're taking this all the way. We don't want to settle with you guys. We want justice and we want accountability. So you give us what we want. They might not want a dollar amount. They might just want to air out all the dirty laundry. So
it'd be interesting.
Again, it will be interesting to see. All right, but I don't think we'll get through the rest of this video, but let me get through a little bit more of this part here, and then we'll wrap up the stream for the night.
David, in the challenges you had to do in that case we did there, compared to the one you have here where we know who allegedly made the statement, it sounds like it's going to be an easy path for you to figure out the veracity of this affidavit.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember that case very well because that case I remember was beginning to kind of spiral. You and I both knew that there was something wrong there. You and I both knew that it didn't smell right, but we were unable to prove it. And when we got into the confidential informant, I did something that I'd done a couple of other times, which is, typically speaking, confidential informant's information is not shared. It's almost never shared. But if it's relied upon, and now there's a civil rights lawsuit pending, it can be turned over in what's called in camera, under seal. There's ways of doing it to still protect their security interests while at the same time protecting our client's constitutional rights. And what I've done in the past and what I did in that particular case, as you said, is I jumped on a plane and I flew to San Antonio and I started going to addresses. I did a search on him. It came up with a whole bunch of addresses and a whole bunch of old phone numbers. And I just spent the day in San Antonio knocking on doors, and he answered the door and he let me in. And we had a nice hour-long conversation, and I showed him the affidavit and I showed him what statement was attributed to him. And he looked up at me and he goes, "I didn't say that." And I said, "Are you willing to testify to that?" And he's like, "I'm scared." He even told me he's scared. Eventually he said, yes, he's willing to testify. And then if you recall, what happened was,
They tried to sanction you.
well, he called me a couple weeks later and actually said that suddenly cops were showing up and scaring him and intimidating him, and he's getting phone calls from blocked numbers and he doesn't know why. And that's when I immediately brought it to the judge. There was some very aggressive motion practice from the other side. They did not like, what
They
I
didn't
did
like
and
you
how I got there.
Investigating and
but then
representing
we
your
eventually
client.
we did sit down. We took his deposition, and his testimony ended up being incredibly powerful. And again, I actually remember this now that you're mentioning it. We scheduled his deposition. He said he would be there, and then he didn't show up.
I had to go get him.
I thought we were going to have to file a motion to show cause him. I told him, I called him or texted him. I said something. If you're not here in an hour, I'm filing a motion to have you held in contempt and thrown in jail so we can depose you there. And then he goes, "I'm scared. What do you want me to do?" And he came and he testified. Nothing happened to him, thank God. But his testimony ended up being incredibly important. And here's the real problem. If you think about it this way, he gets up and he says, "I never made that statement." What's the defense going to do now? They're going to say he's lying. He's not being truthful, right? What's our strongest evidence that he is being honest and truthful? The officer's own affidavit in which they say this confidential informant is honest and truthful. We can believe every word he says. He's truthful. You can't question you can't attack his truthfulness. Everything he says is the truth. And that's why something that I often do when I depose these guys is I say, you refer to a confidential informant here. You say he's truthful. Are you standing by that testimony? Absolutely. Give me some examples. Okay. So if he testifies, that's something you could believe is true. Yes. And you would say that what he's saying is true. Yes. You would not attack his character or say that he's lying. Absolutely not. Great. Okay. Then you pull him in. Now he testifies. What are they going to do now? So I was just joking. Really, he's a big fat liar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That case was sickening from the beginning to end. The cops should have known from the very beginning that they were not getting good information. They knew that they had no probable cause to break into that home. And we won that case on summary judgment. They appealed on qualified immunity, which they get to do as of right. And we ended up settling with the Fifth Circuit mediation program. I remember that case very well. That was such a sad case, what they did to that poor kid.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I thought that was an outstanding result. And the obvious issue there is you didn't know who made the alleged statements. You had to go track that down. We had to figure all that out piece by piece, brick by brick. And we were able to get that. Once we got that and figured out who was telling the truth and not telling the truth, everything changed. Here, it seems like who made the alleged statements, but I'm sharing this with our audience so they understand that even if they didn't disclose who said the statements, this isn't something you haven't seen before or dealt with before. And so it sounds like, I assume you already have a pretty good plan of action how to develop this case and those claims. assuming
Absolutely.
you're involved.
Yeah,
So-
if and when I get involved in this in some capacity, these guys are definitely going to be, in my opinion, well represented. There's a very good plan of attack and course of action, which can be done in this case. And again, the most important thing, as always, is accountability. What these guys did, what they went through, it should not have happened.
So on a prior day, there was also the prolonged traffic stop.
Okay, so we'll go over the rest of this video on the next stream because there's still about almost 10 minutes left. We're basically at our time for today. But yeah, I'm really interested in to see if this guy here, Solomon Radner, is going to be a part of that case because obviously, civil rights attorney really know his stuff. Has cited some past cases that he's worked on his stuff. And I'm really interested in see what he says next in regards to like the traffic stop and things like that. But we're with him 100% on that, though. That's what we want to see too, accountability, and that's why we keep talking about this stuff. That's why we're going to continue to talk about it because we want to see accountability for the American Fork Police Department, and we want to see accountability for Bricks and Minifigs in the situation too. It's time for people to fight back, and it's time for people to get justice, actual justice. So that's why we're going to continue to talk about this as we go on here. So, remember, this is the clip you were talking about before, Aura.
Yeah.
You were talking about this. I'll put the one with the guts theme, though. Just imagine, guys, if you guys don't know what this is from Quantum Leap, a very famous, one of my favorite all-time sci-fi shows from the late 80s, early 90s. So basically, he's a time traveler. For those of you that if you don't get the joke, he's a time traveler who basically leaps in place of other people, right? And assumes their life for a little while he tries to change something in their past for the better. So what ends up happening is when he leaps and replaces people, a holographic image of the person that he has leapt into is left behind. So the person that he sees, the reflection he sees in the mirror is how everybody else sees him. But this is actually what he looks like. So for those of you, you'll see. A lot of people have used this clip as a meme.
Retarded?
There is. I like how it says,
I'm retarded?
Oh, that needs to be Eamon's face.
yes. So what
Or
a lot of people
Josh.
do is when they use this as a meme, they put another person's face on here, for the joke.
Put
So-
Josh's face on there.
Yeah, if somebody wants to make one with Josh's face on here, I'll definitely share it on X. If I knew how to make it, I would do it myself. Josh is the first person that came to mind when I thought
yeah, I'm retarded.
just imagine Josh's face here. So, but yeah, we'll go ahead and the baby teeth, Josh. Yes.
Yeah.
go
Oh
ahead.
no.
Yeah, Quantum Leap
With
is
the-
good. Quantum is great. Yeah, but we'll go ahead. We'll go ahead and wrap it here. But hey, we'd really appreciate it if you guys could go check out our boy Relic right now. He's been going over his franchise agreement for the
Mhm.
last couple of nights. I'll go ahead and link his stream right here in the chat. Go ahead and rate him. Tell him that we sent you. Give him a well, I don't know. Maybe he might have wrapped his stream already. I don't know.
He
Let me
did.
see.
He wrapped it, but you can
Oh, he
just
wrapped it.
share
Well, either way, yeah, I'm gonna share
Share
it
his channel.
anyways.
Yeah.
So you guys can check it out. Like I said, he's been going over his franchise agreement. The last couple streams. So if you guys want to check that out, I linked it in the chat. I'm also going to link Ben's Gibson Go here in the chat for those of you that want to either donate to it or share it. Please feel free to do so. It's going to help Ben out and help him build up his war chest to fight on all fronts here. So there's the link to that also in the chat. Hope you guys will check both of those out. But we're going to go ahead and wrap it here. You guys have a fantastic where is it, Monday? Yeah, Monday evening, and
Yeah. It is.
we'll look into the map. We'll try to see if we can find the map and if it's something
Rose.
out
Rose.
tomorrow.
Where like send it to, if you have Instagram, send it to me on Instagram. It's like _origami, or X. Send it to you, John. On X.
Yeah, send it to you because or send it to me on X. Yeah, at Toy Bounty Hunter.
Yeah.
So
And if I'm X, I'm aura_gami. If you want to send it there so we can look at it, because that sounds interesting.
yeah,
Or if you know
something
where
we
to find it, just tell us where to find it, and then we'll find it from there.
Yeah, we'll try to find it from there. But we'll go ahead and wrap up the stream. Appreciate you guys joining us this fine Monday evening. We'll be back tomorrow night with another stream. We'll continue where we left off on Clearly Established Video, and we'll cover any news that's broken regarding this case as well. So hope to see you there. Thank you guys so much. Make sure to like the stream. If you're here for the first time, please sub and like the stream and hit the notification so you know when we're streaming again or when we're uploading. We appreciate it. So
Have a good evening.
guys.
Thanks for hanging
have a
out.
good evening. Catch you all in the next one.
Boom, bam.